Back in 2007, I reviewed the Bee Movie when I was 10 years old. Since then, I have not read my review, although I do remember not liking the movie. The reason I wrote this review is that my sister and I used to make a fake magazine for my extended family. We'd make like fake advertisements, photo shoots, articles. She would whip them up on Microsoft Word and Paint. We'd print them out at Office Depot and then send them to our extended family as like a magazine. This was, looking back, a great learning experience, a great creative outlet. And one of the things I did learn was that a lot of times when creating content, you need filler. So back in 2007, after I'd watched the Bee Movie, I decided I was going to write a movie review. I adopted the persona of Hetherington J. Smith, a British squirrel. That is honestly still a great character that I will use today. And of course, since then, the Bee Movie has become a sort of meme. Probably a dead meme by now. And watching it back again, I can see why. It's not a great movie. Great kid movies are often praised for being both entertaining for the kids and the adults. They have a simple plot line that kids can follow, but it's still compelling. There's characters who aren't too annoying, but kids still find entertaining, etc., etc. I'm sure it's very hard to do this, but the Bee Movie is just the worst at it. My boy Jerry created the most confusing plot possible for a kid's movie. It largely revolves around the judicial system and like rights of a bee. It's so stupid. All the while, Barry, our main protagonist, goes on the most unlikable hero's journey. Yeah, cool. It's nice that he fights against conformity, and against all the odds you can follow your dream and have outer species sex. That's all fine. But then the main plot is about freeing the bees from their slave labor of producing honey for humans, only for the bees to be unhappy afterwards. So then they go back to making honey? What's the moral here? I guess you can say that like some people want to fit into the mold of society while others like Barry want to break out of it. Oh my god, did I just realize the plot and the moral? Is the moral of the movie to not press sort of your ideals of life onto other people, i.e. the colony trying to pressure Barry into becoming a worker bee or whatever, and Barry then trying to pressure bees to not work? I guess so, but if it took me that long to figure out sort of the moral message, maybe I'm an idiot. And maybe that's because I watched this movie when I was 10 years old. Besides the plots and the themes, the jokes here are Brian from Family Guy. Bees acting like humans, but remember, they're still bees, so they do things a little differently. Throw in some bee puns in there, famous people as bees, and just a dash of Jerry's sort of weird energy sprinkled throughout this entire project. For some context, when I was 10 years old and I first watched this, I vaguely knew who Jerry Seinfeld was. Like, I knew he was a famous comedian and he had a popular show at one point, but I'd never watched any of his content, and what a great introduction. Alright, so that's my spiel on the movie, my thoughts currently, but let me read my review from 2007. I need a good British accent. Hetherington J. Smith. That is such a good name. Hetherington? God, I'm a young prodigy. Crumpet. I, Hetherington J. Smith, am quite surprised to say that the Bee Movie was not very amusing. I thought it was partly interesting, but it lacked comedy. It was fascinating how they made the bee world human-like. I liked that part of the movie back then. Okay, that's good to know. I don't really like it now. In the movie, a bee named Barry, Jerry Seinfeld, is finding a job when he flies out of the hive. I guess that's what happens. He's more like assigned to a job. And honestly, this plot point isn't very important. He talks to a human named Vanessa. Oh no, this is just plot points, isn't it? I think I fell into the trap of every reviewer where I just explained the plot. He talks to a human named Vanessa and finds out that humans are taking the bees' honey. He then goes to court where he convinces the judge, Oprah Winfrey, that people do not have the right to take honey from bees. This actually, I don't explain any of the rest of the plot, and that's because the movie has a weird sort of energy and structure where it actually climaxes, you think, at the judge's decision, but then there's this whole sort of third act where just the flowers are dying and everyone's sad, and his friend, who probably should have died because he stung someone, doesn't because they like replace his stinger with a plastic knife. So stupid. The whole point is that the energy and the story just like has weird ebbs and flows where it seems like this should be the end of the movie, but alas, it is not. It is creative, but not as funny as I'd hoped. Yeah, You know what? Sure. I'll give him that. The movie also had the voices of Chris Rock, Matthew Broderick, John Goodman, and Patrick Warburton. Okay. I was just filling. This is total filler. I don't know who any of these people are. All I did was wiki the movie and put these people in the article. Jerry, I made a bad article, you made a bad movie. At least yours made money. Oh, here we go. Patrick Warburton, also known as Kronk from The Emperor's New Groove, which I recommend more than the B movie. I love that I recommend The Emperor's New Groove over this one. Ta-ta for now. Hetherington J. Smith. I mean, I freaking roasted him. I wish I had maybe ignored the plot a bit more and written about, aspects of the movie I didn't like. But it really was a confusing movie to watch as a child. I was 10 years old, the highest kid demographic that you would be looking for, and I still had trouble sort of following what we were supposed to care about in the movie. And clearly, I didn't like the comedy. Yeah, it was a bad movie. But you know what? It made a lot of money and it lived on as a meme, so congrats, Jerry. Thank you. Good night. Good night. I'm gonna go to bed. Good night, Jerry. Good night, Jerry.